Hello everyone! Welcome back to Anime Maker! So, Magna Opus is finally finished. But just because I'm done making an RPG does not mean we're done with this creation series just yet. We gotta go over one last feature in Anime Maker. And that is the demo feature. This is the feature that everybody ignores because basically the demo feature is its own separate thing. It cannot be used in the RPG that you're creating. I'm going to go ahead and try to create something with this anyway though, just to show you what it's like, because who else is gonna? So the basic gist of the demo feature is it allows you to create animated skits. For example, we'll just throw in this sprite here and let's see here. Let's get it loaded. And here we go. I'll just set her here. And so now I'm creating myself a skit. We got characters who can run around and jump, and they can also talk, and they can also attack, but this character doesn't have any attack animations. So let's go ahead and throw in another character as well. Let's just go ahead and throw in a rabbi. Or actually, it's a rabbit. Character limits, you know? So, here we have ourselves a rabbit character. Once again, we're able to have the character walk and run around and jump, attack, and you can actually have characters be attacked until they get KO'd, more or less. Let's see here. You can have up to 16 characters in a single skit, depending on how many sprite sheets they use. These two characters are so big, they require multiple sprite sheets. You can have also a variety of backgrounds to use in your skit. For the most part, it's the same backgrounds that are available in RPG Maker by default whenever you're creating a title screen, but there's also a couple of interesting ones down here. We got map 1, which is basically the same as the test map whenever you're sprite editing. And we also have map 2, which is more of a platforming looking segment, which actually kind of looks weird whenever this character is kind of walking in the air. So in order to fix that, we can also make it so that this is a landscape map. And so now she'll actually be affected by gravity, as well as be able to climb on the ladder and jump through platforms. It's kind of interesting. So let's see here, you can also have dialogue. I'm not sure how much dialogue you can have in your little animated skit, but you can have a bunch of it. The biggest limitation is that it has to be all caps. You can also have music, of course. Your music options are a bit limited. You can have no music, or you can have one of these 7 songs. These songs being same songs that are in RPG Maker 1, except named differently. So, in order, we got Shop 3, Home 4, Home 1, Town 2, Dialogue 2, Home 3, and Town 6. It's kind of a small selection of music. I'm not entirely sure why it's small. As for the length of the skits you can create, they can be upwards of 5 minutes. You can only have 16 characters, like I said, up to 16 characters. You can only have one background for your entire skit. You can only have one song for your entire skit. And in regards to sound effects, it's basically the sound effects that are tied to character animations. So that's the basic gist of this feature. Now let's actually try to perhaps create something with it. So let's start by creating a character. Well, I'm not actually going to create a character, I'm just going to load what's already here. Starting off, we could easily use any of the characters that are already available for when you're creating an RPG. Just a recap of the features that are here. On the left side, you have the selection screen, so you can select what's part of the sprite you're modifying. You cannot actually modify anything on the left, it's actually all done on the right side. Got zoom, of course. We got doodle. Anything I do on the right, it appears on the left. We can create lines. We can create squares. We can create filled squares. By the way, we got the options on the right for colors. So, let's see, square, filled square. We can create a filled, well, not a filled circle. There's no option for a filled circle, strangely enough, so we just have to use the fill option if we want to fix that. And of course we could, let's see here, use this option in order to mirror part of the sprite. We can also flip it upside down. And this is the copy-paste option, so if I really wanted to, I can just go like this, copy all this. Now I'll just create copy half of it, and I'll paste it over here. So there we go. As you can see, sprite sheets are a whole lot bigger for this particular feature than whenever you're creating a sprite for your RPG. In fact, let's zoom out so you can see how much more you have to work with. This is the section that you have whenever you're creating an RPG, and then everything down here, this is whenever you're creating something for the demo feature. That's quite a bit there. In fact, let's go ahead and load up another sprite here. Let's load up a sprite that is actually going to be useful for the demo feature. We have a variety of options, as you can see. We got cats, a dog, rabbit, pig, fox, bears, mouse, squirrel, and various human characters, all of various sizes. All of them have a lot of animation attached to it. So for this first one, I think what I'm going to do is, well, just to show it off. I'm not actually going to work on anything, probably not going to use it. But let's load it up. Let's load up the rat character. So here is the sprite sheet for the rat character. Let's zoom in so you can see what all is involved with these sprites. So we got the standing animations, and we got walking along here, various directions. We can also have the rat be jumping around, also KO'd, facing various directions. So, definitely some stuff. Here's a ladder climbing animation right here. Let's see. Of course, this is a pretty small sprite, so they're able to fit all of the rat's animations on this one sprite sheet. But when we're dealing with bigger sprites, for example, well, let's say this pig here, that's when you need more than one sprite sheet. In this case, the pig has 3 different sprite sheets. So for here, this pig has the standing animations, just standing around. So down here is whenever the pig is attacking. Let's see here. There's some jumping there. There's one bit of a KO animation there. If we want to find the rest of the KO animation, we'd have to go over to pig number 2, where some more sprites are located. So here's some more animations of when they're KO'd, some running animations as well, and also whenever they're being attacked. So that's kind of interesting. Like I said, I'm not going to modify or create anything, not yet anyway. As a reminder, RPG Maker, well, specifically Anime Maker, which is part of RPG Maker, has PlayStation mouse support. I don't have one of those, so I'm definitely not going to try to create anything. Let's instead move onward to the animation editor. So this is where things get pretty dang complicated. In fact, let me move up my notes here. I have moved up my notes. So let's go ahead and load up a random sprite. That is not the option. Or was it? Actually, I think that was. Yeah, we go to this page. We go to this option here, and this allows us to... No, it wasn't that. Okay, hold on. I just practiced this a little bit ago, but it's so much to take in. Maybe it was this option. Yeah, it was that option. I was right the first time. So, let's just bring up a random RPG character sprite. So, the basic of this is, over on the left is your sprite sheet, and over on the right is the film where you create your animation. So let's create a simple animation. We'll go ahead and use that. So this is frame number 1, or I guess film number 1 of this animation. Move down to a second one, and we'll go ahead and use this, and then a third one, and we'll go ahead and use that. Not creating a serious one, I'm just kind of showing off what we're dealing with here. And so, there we go, we got ourselves a 4-film animation. If we go over down to the lower middle, we can actually get a preview of what it's like. So that's kind of neat. Of course, we have some other options as well. For example, we can use the arrows to move the character around the film. In fact, that's probably what we're going to want to do, because we want this guy to be centered on the bottom of the film. In fact, we're going to need to do that for all the frames, so let's choose all the frames. So I'll just go ahead and center this guy as required. And as we go down, you can actually go down pretty far. You can have each frame of animation be pretty dang big. I'm not entirely sure how big, that's probably as big as it gets, but yeah, you can have some pretty big sprites in your anime maker skit. And let's see here, if we go to some of these other options, we can flip him upside down, we can mirror him. Skipping that option for now. This one, first off, if you press square, you can get a girl telling you what the options do, which is really helpful. So this one would allow us to insert a frame of animation, this one would be deleting a frame of animation, and this one right here is kind of important. Let's go ahead and go down to film number 3, and I'm going to click this. This is basically a loop point. By placing this there, it basically makes it so that he loops between the loop point and the end of the film, no longer going after the frames that are at the top of the film. Meanwhile, over here we have sort of a counter sort of thing, a frame counter, I guess we'll call it, and it basically affects how many frames there are before it goes on to the next film. So, for example, by default these are all 3, but if I were to, say, put this at 39 suddenly, gotta love those mechanics when on counters, where if you hold the button long enough, it suddenly decides to shoot faster, and usually it does it when you don't want it to. So by putting this at 30, that means that that particular film actually stays there for 30 frames, which is about a second long, thereabouts. It's not exact, apparently. Also, hello to Dead Zergling in the Twitch chat right now. I am showing off how to use Anime Maker's demo feature, which is basically a skit editor. Let's see, this option right here is the zoom option. What was the pink bubble again? Oh yeah, this is the sprite editor. So you don't have to exit this particular editor in order to go edit the sprite. You can just press that button, make whatever changes you want. For example, yeah, we'll just do that. And those are already applied now right here. Not that we need them to be. Meanwhile, if we go over to... Well, actually first, one more thing on this page. We got different sprite sheets. Each animation can use up to 4 different sprite sheets, which in a bit we'll actually go ahead and try using an animation that does use multiple sprite sheets. But for now, let's go over to this page of options, where we have a whole lot going on. For example, right here on the upper left, these are all your animation options. Starting off is your standing animation, which includes the idle animation that takes place if your character is standing still for a bit. Walking, running, jumping, talking, attacking, getting hit, being KO'd, climbing ladders, and this one right here is especially interesting. It's an animation that you can tie to the L1 button. Meanwhile, right here we can choose what direction we're actually editing. So for example, if I... Well, let's see here. Which one is it editing by default? I think it's the standing facing down? No, it's actually the standing facing left. So that's what that is. Meanwhile, we got the copy-paste option, so let's go ahead and copy the standing left option, and we'll paste it to the standing down option. And now it should be on both directions. That's kind of handy. Then we got all these middle options. This right here is the jump height. We need to actually test these out. Well, let's start by, well, first I should actually tell you what the rest of them are. Jump height, running speed, and collision. The collision option is basically for attacking and being attacked. If this is turned off, this character cannot attack or be attacked. I don't know why they have to demonstrate that by walking through a tree, because it has nothing to do with walking through things. Also, you got an option down here for hit points. Characters can have hit points, as in how many times you have to hit them in order to KO them. Upwards of 99. We're not going to be doing that, because that would mean they'd have to be hit 99 times to get KO'd. Now let's go ahead and... well, I was about to use the test button, but you know, we don't actually have very many animations created for this guy, so let's load up something that does have some animations attached to it. Let's load up cat number 2. Which of course has multiple sprite sheets attached to it. In fact, let me go ahead and show you those right now. So here's sprite sheet number 3. Let's zoom out. Which has the character being attacked and stuff. I probably shouldn't have done that, because that modified the sprite on the right. No, well, I'll just reload it. So yeah, basically, this is running and that sort of thing, and being attacked and that sort of thing. Here's some of the KOs and some other running, and of course here's your standing as well as the idle animations. Let me reload this now, because I did not want to make those changes. Alright, so by default, by the way, he has 5 hit points. I'm actually going to give him 1 hit point. Or maybe 2. No, let's settle for 3 for the moment. Now let's see what all our options here are. So when we're test playing this sprite, we can have the top view or the side view. I'm going to go ahead and go with the side view. So let's see here. Here's all of his stuff. If I press R1, during testing only, this is triggering him getting hit and eventually KO'd. As for jumping animation, there's how high he can jump and there's how fast he can run. However, let's see here. What button do we press to get out of here? L2. So let's see what happens if we jack up the jump height. If we jack up the jump height, he's suddenly floatier for one thing, and he can jump pretty dang high. Whereas if we were to drop this all the way down, he's basically a rock. Can't really jump very high at all. Let's try out changing the running speed. Put this back at its default location. Let's go ahead and jack up the running speed. This should be fun. Zoom! Imagine having this running speed attached to the high jump and floatiness. Or alternatively, if you actually wanted a rock character, then slow as molasses. But at least he can jump right now. In fact, he can jump faster than he can actually run. So you know what? Be like one of those old videos game speedruns where most of the speedrun is spent with a character jumping because they move faster in the air than they do on the ground. Now let's say we actually create a fun little animation. First off, now I'm going to go ahead and set this character to 1 HP. And I'm going to modify his idle animation. So what I'm going to do here, let's see what his idle animation actually looks like starting off. So if you have him stand around long enough, he'll eventually do this. But you know, I kind of want the animation, the idle animation to trigger sooner, so I'm just going to knock this down to 30. And you know what, this next frame is also going to be too long, so let's knock it down to, well, let's see here. Most of this animation is at 3 frames, so let's have this also at 3 frames. Now let's see what it's like. That definitely triggers a lot faster. So, let's see here. I could go ahead and do that for all idle animations, but I'm just going to have to keep in mind whenever I'm creating this skit that I want him to idle while facing down. So, let's move on to something else. Let's go ahead and create an L1 animation. As far as I'm aware, none of the animations that are already in Anime Maker by default have an L1 animation, so I'm just going to go ahead and create my own. So let's see here. How about maybe this? Nope, can't move that any further down. So let's see here. So that'll be that. And on the next frame, you know what? Let's just have it again. Except what I think I'll do is have this one be like that. And I think for each of these frames, I'm going to... well, each of these films, I'm going to have it be 1 frame. So let's see how that looks. Well, he's not really doing a whole lot. I think in order to fix that, I'm going to have to make sure to have a loop here. So that by doing that, he's all, yeah, I actually like that. We'll actually keep that. So let's actually test this out, shall we? Go back in here and go into the side view. Let's go ahead and try him out. So if I have him face down, he'll quickly go into the idle. Or I could just have him be all... yeah, I like that. Let's actually make sure that that's, Maddie Reddita says, oh gosh, who tilted the cartridge? Basically. Alright, let's go ahead and copy this to all 4 directions, because I don't really know what direction I'm going to assign that to, or have him face at the time. Oop, hold on a sec. Let's try this better. So let's start by copying down to left. Let's also copy down to up. And let's copy down to right. So this should mean that each direction of L1 has that fun little animation. Yeah, this is right there, and it's right there, and it's right there. And that's basically the gist of the animation editor. That's not even a gist, that's a full-on explanation. Let's go ahead and save it. We'll call this character... Cat. But that's not a very long we'll just have it Save it onto memory card 2. Alright. One set of animations takes 1 block of memory, whereas each sprite sheet takes 1 block of memory. But since I'm using a sprite sheets that's already built into an RPG Maker 1, I don't need to waste any memory on these sprite sheets because they're already there. So that's gonna be useful. With that in mind, I think the next thing to do is create a background. I almost forgot about the background. This one's actually kind of important. Let's go ahead and take care of it real quick. First off, basic editor, Same as whenever you're creating an editor or creating a title screen for your RPG, that sort of thing. You got all these various options, you got color options and that sort of thing. You can still load up a color option that I once created. Where is that one? There it is. See and no. I wound up creating one once before, and there it is. Because, of course, you got the gradient option, so if you wanted to, you could have it be gradiating from green to blue and press this button here. Handy feature, but we're not interested in all that. We're actually going to load up one of the title screens, and unfortunately I did not write down... Oops, I'm jumping ahead. We don't want to know what that is yet. What one... Okay, where was my options? Okay. There we go. Let's load. And unfortunately, I did not write down which one of these I wanted. Is it background 6? No, that's the sky. Background 5. I'm going to be going this way in the hopes that it's not background 7. Nope, definitely not background 5. 4. That's in space. Brick wall. Why should it be background 7? It's background 7. And I missed the button. That's the background I want. So I'm not necessarily going to edit this background, but I am going to take advantage of that feature that I accidentally sort of teased, and that's this feature right here. This is basically a collision editor. So everything that is blue is completely passable. You can jump up through it, you can fall through it, and walk through it. So let's say I kind of wanted to make sure that the ground down here was impossible, or impassable. Basically, I would change all these tiles down here to red. In fact, let's go ahead and kind of also do that a little bit here. Meanwhile, right here, this is for tiles that can be stood on, but can also be jumped from underneath. So let's say we can walk on the tree limbs up here. That sounds like not a bad idea. Except maybe not right there. We'll do a little bit of that. Where else? Let's also kind of have it like right here. Sure, and also for funsies right here. And lastly, we got the ladder function. Let's go ahead and make it possible to climb on up this tree. So that would be these yellow tiles right here. In fact, we'll make it so that you can climb way up the tree. Up to there, where we would probably be able to stand up to, but not necessarily wanting to, but I'm just going to do that anyway. Maybe not though, that might mess things up with the thing that I'm going to be making here. Let's just bring this all the way back down, shall we? While we're at it, let's make it so that we can stand on top of the pigs, even if we're not being blocked by them. So you can stand on that pig, and that pig, and that pig. Not going to worry about the tombstones in the back. And so that's basically the gist of this editor, at least in regards to creating something that we can actually use for a, well, background sort of thing for that skit. Let's go ahead and save it. That would be this option here. Let's go ahead and save it as... We'll just give it a generic name of skit. BG. Oh boy, that's a lot of blocks. Okay, definitely want to compress. Do I have enough memory for that? Okay, thank goodness. That would have sucked if I didn't have enough memory. Well, now I need to find out if I have enough memory for the skit itself. If not, that's gonna be a roadblock. So, hold on a sec, let's go ahead and finish saving this. And I'm just gonna go over to... Oh wait, this is already open. I'm just gonna go over to the memory card option here. what we got here? On memory card 1, we got 3 blocks free. And after creating that thing that I just made, also 3 blocks free. I don't know how much memory skits take. So, just in case, I'm going to have to do some rearranging of memory, so I'm going to be doing that over the episode break. And when we come back, we're actually going to go ahead and create a skit.